You guys ready?
Ready.
Ready.
All right, there's the alert. Here we go. Hey now. Hey everybody. This is Johnny Beane. Welcome. It is February 11th, 2022, 8:09 p.m. Eastern, 5:09 Pacific. Welcome to Exclusively Van Halen, the weekly EVH show. Again, my name is Johnny Beane. Here we are. We got Kurt 5150.
Good evening, everyone.
Thanks
for having me.
Good evening. We got Rob Johnson, the great. Always great to have you, man.
Thank
How
you
are
very
you?
much. Thank you very much.
Having
Kurt,
a good time?
without you, but that's okay.
Jansen.
Man. Well, hey, you guys. We have a very special guest tonight. But before we bring him in, let's say hello to the executive producers here on Johnny Beane TV, here on YouTube. We have channel members. If you'd like to become a channel member, click that join button below. And the top tier are the executive producers: Dave Ennis, Final Freak 5150, Mike Neese, Music Therapy Laz, Majestic PB and J Cat, Wayno, False Flag, Sherman Callahan, Andy Carson, Michael B, Arhabs, Warlag, The Chad, Lawrence Christensen, Lenny Lou and Mary, James Gum, John Moronic, Paul Martin Woods, I gotta take a breath, Stephen Franklin, Michael Smith, the captain who was on the Monsters of Rock cruise with our friends in Nerd Halen tonight.
He is flying. He's
Very
driving the boat.
Cool.
Controlling
Very,
the boat. Whatever you
yes.
call it.
I think we'll hear more about that tomorrow night on John BL's Saturday Night. Thomas Santiago, Joe Christian, Jim Roy Hawkins, David Allen Wright, and Steve Carmichael.
Yes.
That's the top tier of channel members here on Johnny Beane TV, here on YouTube. Become a channel member. Help support the channel. And if you're not ready for channel membership, any super chats will change the color of my lights behind me. It's a special feature if you'd like to help support this channel, support these shows. And let's see, we're live on Facebook, where we have Facebook stars, and we're actually live all over Facebook. The Exclusively Van Halen Facebook group, just under 63,000 members, EVH Gear Live Facebook group and Facebook page, and everywhere. Oh my gosh, live everywhere. So, Kurt.
Johnny, we got one more person that wants to say hello.
Barney.
Oh,
Barney.
Barney.
Hey, Barney.
Barney Fife.
With his one bullet, by the way. With his one.
Wow.
All right. Well, hey, everyone in the chat, Johnny, Rob, we have an excellent special guest tonight. This man has been interviewing musicians and guitar players for the last 46 years. 16 cover stories on magazines like Guitar Player, Guitar World. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. He's done some amazing interviews with artists like Ozzy Osbourne, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, Prince, Bruce Springsteen, and Randy Rhoads. Yeah, this guy has been an actual friend, a confidant, and a musician with the one and only Eddie Van Halen for over 20 plus years from the beginning, before the 78 album came out, Mr. Steve Rosen.
Guys, V for Van Halen, right?
Hey.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor.
I'm sure I missed a few. I'm sure I missed a few accolades, but you know, we didn't want to drag it out for 5
Yeah.
minutes, so we cut it down a little bit.
Gotcha.
That was 5
Sounds
minutes.
good. Well,
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to cut you off next time. You're kind of long. Cheers, buddy. Cheers, buddy.
Man.
Thanks, guys.
Steve,
bet, man.
Thanks, guys.
I mean, you've been on the show before, but I probably told you, you know, I've been a huge fan of your work for a lot of years, and it's just incredible to be able to talk to you and hear some great stories, and we're looking forward to some great stories coming up in your brand new book. Where is it?
Yeah.
Tone Chaser.
There it is.
There we go.
Nice.
Yes.
Fantastic cover by Niels Lozauer. You guys probably think you've seen that shot before, but I don't think you have. You've seen shots from that session,
Mhm.
Yep.
but that particular shot I don't think has ever been seen anywhere before. I know that Zlo's never had that in any of his books, and I don't think I've
Amazing.
ever seen it anywhere. I just really love that. I have to say here that I've known Neil since I think 74, and he has been just an unbelievable champion for me. And you know, he's helped me out if I've ever needed anything, and he's made phone calls for me. He was actually incredibly generous enough to give me some photos for the book, including that cover shot. And he's just an unbelievable guy. Neil actually has a book of his own coming out. I'm not sure when, perhaps later this year, called
June,
Ed
I heard.
by Zlo's. And it's 300 of his pretty much unseen color photos. And I've seen them, and they're just remarkable. Daniel Gray art directed Neil's book, and I actually got him to come and help me put mine together through Neil's referral. And Daniel went through every photo in that Neil had of Van Halen. And, you know, Neil had his yardstick was much higher than everybody else's. So he'd see a photo, and if, you know, the cup in the corner was out of focus, that's no good, I can't use it. And Daniel was telling him, no, these photos are freaking unbelievable. So the shots you're going to see in there are just, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, he's the greatest. In my mind, I think he's maybe the greatest rock photographer I've ever seen. Jim Marshall was pretty remarkable. But in terms of Van Halen photos, I don't think anybody did what Neil did with Van Halen. Anyway, that's my shout out to Neil. And
we
I
support
just love
Neil.
that cover. And,
Yeah.
Neil's amazing.
Cool, dude. I ran into him at the NAMM show one year and talked to him for a few minutes. And yeah, he was very cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very
And both
cool.
Rob and I have
You
his
know,
books,
Neil-
and we'll buy the new one when it comes out, right, Rob?
Well,
Yeah.
you'll buy me a copy because you owe me money. But
Yep, exactly.
I paid for drinks the last time we went out, dude, and you spiked my drink, and then so you owe me.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
we're definitely
Check
gonna.
the-
We're,
Yeah.
Check the tape.
Right. He's got some amazing books.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, Neil's amazing.
What
Go ahead.
what obviously we'll get into the conversations about the interviews you had with Edward and all that, because they're just so amazing.
Yeah.
I listen to them all the time. What inspired you to create this book?
This book had a very long birth. Some of you may know, and I keep going back to this story, and I write about it in depth in the book. So the book itself is sort of a book about a book that you're not reading, kind of a thing. So back in '85, I had been friends with Ed for about 7 years at that point. And, 1984 had just come out, and he was, he was just this amazing guitar player that everybody in the world was kind of looking at. And, I thought to myself, writers are going to come out of the woodwork. You know, they're going to want to write Edward's biography. And I thought, fuck that. You know, there's nobody that can write a better one than me. And not saying that I was the greatest writer in the world, because I'm not. I'm a very good writer. There's certainly better writers, but nobody had that relationship that I had. And I thought that's special. I thought that's incredibly special. So I approached Ed. To make a long story short about that, he said yes. And I actually typed up like a little 1-paragraph contract. I, Edward Van Halen, give Stephen Rosen permission to write my authorized biography. Nobody else can do it, you know. And for some fucking stupid reason, I never signed it. He signed it. I never signed it. So at the end of the day, he could have said, hey, man, you didn't sign it. But the truth of it is, and I actually talk about this in the book, I don't think he even looked at the contract. It just didn't matter to him. That stuff wasn't important to him.
Yeah.
So I started interviewing lots of people, you know, his friends and musicians he had played with, you know, guys who were promoting shows, all kinds of people. I mean, I was getting some fantastic stuff. So let's move ahead. 2003, things happen, and kind of our friendship ends. And I talk about that in the book. And so for the next, 17 years, I mean, the book was never entirely dead in my mind, but I just couldn't see what the book was going to be. I mean, I hadn't done all these other interviews I wanted to do with Ed, and I had this whole pile of interviews with these people, and I thought, well, how do I put this together now? And I could just never do it. And the fact that I really wasn't talking to Edward, I thought, I don't really want to write the book. You know, he's going to see it, or he's not going to see it, and he's going to say something, or he's not going to say something. And I just couldn't do that. Yeah. So I just let it go. And then, as I mentioned to you guys, and you can't see him, but my cat here, Arpeggio, is sitting in the back of my chair. Well, he started waking me up in the middle of the fucking night because he was hungry. And I'm telling him, go back to sleep. And he'd meow, and he'd walk over the bed, and he'd walk over the pillow, you know, man. So I'd get up and I'd feed him. And then I try to go back to sleep, and now I'm wired. So one morning, I just kind of walked in to the computer room, and I started writing. And I don't know if it's coincidence or maybe I knew it was. It was my birthday, August 24th, 2020. And I just started putting down notes. You know, I met Edward in 77, and, you know, we hung out. I mean, I didn't know where it was going. I honestly never believed it was going to turn into a book. And beyond that, I truly never believed I'd ever finish it. It was more just to put some ideas down, you know. Was it catharsis? I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. And at the end of 14 months, 14 really hard months, writing every single night, you know, I had the book completed. So the book kind of snuck up on me, and that's how I kind of had to look at it. Dan Fonte, who was John Fonte's son. John Fonte was an extraordinary American novelist. He wrote Ask the Dust. He was like a who can I liken him to? Like a John Steinbeck, wrote those kinds of stories. Anyway, his son was also an author, and he said to me once, man, I can't write a book, but I can write 1 page a day. I thought, wow, okay. Oh yeah. So you know, I sit there and try to fill up one single space, you know, a page in Word a night at least. And then all of a sudden, I'm at the end. It's like, holy fuck, it's done, you know. So I don't know if that was a long answer to your question, but
absolutely.
You know, I mean, it was the hardest thing I've ever written. It was the most satisfying. It's the best writing I've ever done. I mean, I killed myself over every word, you know. I don't have any good words left. I mean, they're all there in that book. And, you know, I hope people get a sense of who Edward was, you know, beyond these other books that are out there. And yeah, I mean, yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, was it a labor of love? I mean, I suppose. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Before we dive too deep into the book, because that's why we're here, we want to we want to give you the floor and talk about whatever you want, plug whatever you want. I think Rob and I and Johnny all have some questions for you, but Johnny, I'm gonna really
Yeah, man.
quickly
No,
say
go
hi
ahead.
to
No,
everyone in the
you can
chat.
talk about anything. Go
If
ahead.
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the
Yeah.
chat, let's say hi
Who do we have
to
here?
Charlie S. Charlie S. Thanks for joining, Charlie. We got Holly Lewis. Holly, thanks for joining. It's good to see you. James Stewart. Keith Campbell, the one and only Keith Campbell. Good to see you, Keith. My uncle Leo Safko's here. The
that
one and
really
only
your
Mike Neese.
Is that really your uncle?
Is that really your uncle?
Uncle Leo. Come on, Seinfeld. I actually do have an Uncle Leo. Anyway.
He's under the bed. So
Oh, you guys, I'm never going to be able to get through this, Steve. Sorry. Music
That's
Therapy
okay. Well,
Labs.
there are really
is
a lot
here.
of people out there.
Yeah. Octopus Ears.
Nice.
With all the tentacles. He's here. R2, R3, Locky Nut. What's up, man? Rick Green. Rock Daddy. Schmitty, a.k.a. Symmetry. We got J7/8 Hannon.
who?
Jay Hannon.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's the
Hey,
lead
Jay.
guitarist for Gizmachi. Thomas Santiago, Warlag, and let's see. Halface also jumped in a little bit late. Thomas Santiago and Clayton James Hicks.
What's up, Clayton?
John BL
How you doing?
5150.
John
He's in
BL.
for a minute. What's up, John BL? And Les Fallon and Kelly and Janice Lala.
Janice, what's going on?
Right on, right on. Yeah, we got about
Yeah.
90 people watching us live right now. And
Sweet.
anybody
Yeah,
in the
there you
chat, if you have any questions for Steve, I'm getting questions sent to my Facebook Messenger right now, so we can field some of those. Please put a Q in front of your question,
There you go.
and we can get to some of those, or you can text them. You guys can text me. I have a phone number somewhere.
And coming in late, the one and only Cameron Brown from Scotland. And,
Cameron.
Man, what's up?
yeah.
How you doing, Cam?
And Lenny Lynch. She's here as well. She must be just getting off work.
I just wanted to say, guys, that I recognize some of these names here. And I know that some of these people have fantastically gotten pre-orders on the book. And I wanted to say thank you to everybody who's done that. It's extraordinarily gratifying. And, you guys have put some remarkably supportive comments like in the little PayPal. And that's amazing to me. That stuff means a lot to me. And I did want to mention one thing here. Is it Keith Campbell, who I believe had mentioned, and I never even recognized it until he pointed it out, that on the cover of the book, it's written up there in the photo, it's an actual chalkboard. And I never realized that actually. And he said, "Oh, look great if the font was like in chalk." I just thought that was a fantastic idea, But I wanted to give him his props for that. That was
There
very
you go.
cool.
Anyone
Very
under the age of 25 wouldn't know what a chalkboard is.
Yeah, that is very true, man.
I was going to ask you guys, what's a chalkboard?
Yeah, right.
Oh, funny.
They're coming back, though. They are coming back.
Yeah,
Chalkboards, yeah.
yeah.
No, Steve, I think you did a phenomenal job on the cover. When I went in to order the book, I ordered it the next day that you put it out there. I was excited just seeing the cover. So I think it's perfect. So great job.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The name's perfect. Yeah, that's great. And Rob, you have a little you got a little story about that 59 Les Paul there.
I do. I'll kind of tie it in a little bit to one of Steve's interviews. I believe that he did with Edward, and I think it was in 1980. This is not the guitar, but in the actually in the video, or excuse me, in the book cover on Steve's book, you can tell over in the right hand corner there is a Les Paul, and I'm not at liberty to say where I saw that guitar, but it's a Les Paul. And Steve, in your interview with Edward back in 1980, you're asking him, one of the questions you ask him, or one of the pieces of discussion that you have with Edward, is about two Les Pauls. And Edward mentions that he has two of them that he purchased. One was pristine condition at the time, which is a 59 Les Paul. And the other was another one that he played live, and he actually ripped the the neck pickup out of it. And there's pictures of him playing that Les Paul live, the 1980 Invasion Women and Children First Tour. The one that was the pristine guitar, Edward mentioned, I think said something in the interview that when you interviewed him, that he was, he kind of kept that nice, and he's not going to take it on tour because it's more of a kind of a somewhat case queen, more of a, whatever.
And Rob, one of them was a sunburst, and the other one was a flame top.
Yeah, the burst. Yeah, the burst. I believe the burst is the one that's in that picture. I'm not 100% sure. It could be. I'm not sure. However, the guitar, whether it was that one or whether it was the burst, I was lucky enough to actually play and handle 3.5 weeks ago. I can't discuss where I saw the guitar because I don't want to give away the individual's name or anything, because I'm not sure that particular person that owns the guitar now would want, to have that information out. But it's pretty interesting. I was lucky enough to actually play that Les Paul and handle it for probably about 5 to 10 minutes. And I believe that individual's had the guitar for a number, maybe 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know, something like that. So pretty cool stuff.
And that's him calling right
That is
now.
very cool.
Yeah, right.
I think Eddie sold them. I think Eddie sold them in 95 or 96, around that era.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Did he really?
Yeah.
But
he said
really
in
cool.
an interview that the price was too good to be true, and he wasn't playing them.
Wow.
He hadn't played them since the mid 80s. So he figured he'd get rid of them.
Do you guys know? Do you guys know how much he paid for those originally?
No.
I know how much
read the book.
Has it now paid for it, but who's going to buy it?
Yeah,
Who's going to pay? But no.
I'll give you just a little taste of that chapter.
Uh-oh.
There's a knock on my door. I was living in Laurel Canyon, the Hollywood Hills, and it's Ed. And he would just show up once in a while, and I always, welcomed him with open arms. I mean, he just, feel like coming over. So he comes over one day, and he walks in, and I have a very heavy screen door. It's like really thick mesh. And it's kind of hard to see, who's out there, which is the whole point of this security screen door. So I look out and I can see it's Ed, and I can see he's holding two things. I go, what the hell? I thought, I thought at first they were like dead animal carcasses or something, I didn't know what they. Yeah. So exactly. Yeah. You're doing your laundry. Cool, man. So he walks in and he's got these two guitars, and as soon as I open the door, I go, oh my God, look at these guitars. And they were the two Les Pauls. And anyway, he comes in and he kind of, with no case, and he tosses them on my couch, and they kind of bounce around each other. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's just gonna, they're gonna chip each other. So anyway, yeah, he brought those guitars over, and I think you guys probably know he bought those from Norm's Rare Guitars.
Yeah.
And Norm actually had a bit of a falling out with Ed a little while later. I guess Ed called him, and there was some discussion about a pickup, which I didn't really go into in the book because I never talked to Ed about it, and I only had Norm's side of the story, so I just kind of went over its surface. But in the book, I go into much more detail, and I'll even go so far as to tell you that Ed plugged the, I think it was the 59. I had a Marshall stack at the time, and which I'd actually gotten from Jim Marshall personally when I was at the Marshall
Oh,
factory.
wow.
That's another story.
Nice.
So
Awesome.
Ed gets up and he plugs in the Marshall and he puts his hand right, from right, left to right across the top. Everything's on full, and Ed's sitting there blazing. I have this on tape, and it's not even to be believed. So that's all I'm going to
Wow.
tell you. Read the book and get lost.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
Wow.
Well, to answer
Thanks,
your
man.
question, Keith Campbell, that is affirmative. I did play that guitar that Ed sold. Yes. I can't discuss where. I can't tell you where.
Ah.
Um,
No hints?
where it
Wah,
is.
wah, wah, wah.
Is it behind you?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, it's my chip. Ed, it was, I'm going to put everything to bed. It was actually a Chibson, a Chinese.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I can't. I'm sorry. I will tell you three when we get off, but I can't discuss it online. But I just, I'm not trying to be one of those guys. I know something you don't know. I'm not trying to be that guy, but it was really very awesome to be able to pick up and hold and play. I couldn't even take pictures. I was not allowed to take pictures of it because it's just one of those things. But I was able to play the 59 Les Paul, the more cream of the crop one that you're talking about,
Yeah,
Steve, that Ed threw on the couch.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
incredible.
Like,
Yeah.
of course, it's funny because I play guitar and I'm sitting there holding the guitar and I'm like, I didn't even know what to play. I'm like, like I didn't even know what to do.
You're like, where's the Floyd?
I think I played the Running riff.
Yeah.
My brain just went, like.
Yeah, I think one was a 58 and the other one was a 59, right, Johnny?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
You guys know
Yeah.
more of that stuff than I do.
Yeah, they were. I mean, that I only know that because that's Ed told me that. But they were unbelievable guitars. I mean, my God, they're just unbelievable.
So Steve,
Wow.
you said the first time you met Ed was back in '77.
Correct.
I think the first interview you did, or the one that's at least on YouTube, is '78, and you did another one in '79. You did another one in '80, and you did one in '86 after the 5150 tour. And I mean, I'd personally like to get into all four of those interviews a little bit in a little bit. But how did you?
Wait, Rob. Did you count the one before the album came out?
Is that the '77 one?
Yeah. Did you say 77?
Yeah, I did one in. It's so hard to remember.
At the Whiskey, right?
Well, that's where I met him.
Yeah.
The first interview I did was before the record came out. Yeah, I think it was like December '77. And so the first record came out, February '78.
Okay.
So, I mean, what was so amazing about meeting him was extraordinary, but I didn't really know. Well, I mean, I knew who Edward Van Halen was. Everybody in Hollywood knew who Van Halen was. I mean, he'd been playing the Whiskey and the Starwood for a while by that time, but I had never, excuse me here. Thank you, Leo. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Uncle Leo.
I had never, for some bizarre reason, I'd never heard him play. I didn't know what the band sounded like. I mean, I figured they were some kind of a hard rock band, playing the Whiskey and Starwood. But I had no idea how this guy played. So when I met him that first night at the Whiskey, I just thought, yeah, he was just some, guitar player from Hollywood, that was playing the Strip. I knew his band had just been signed to Warner, so I thought they must have been, pretty amazing. But I didn't know how he played. I didn't know any of that. So interviewing the first time, it was just, not knowing that much about him, to be honest. It was a phoner, and I mean, again, it's so hard. I get my dates mixed up and which interview was which, but I
44
just
years
remember
ago.
him being an. Oh, is that all? Oh,
Yeah.
so why can't I remember?
Yesterday,
But,
right, Johnny? Yesterday was the
Yeah.
44-year anniversary. The only
Yeah.
reason I know that is because I'm 44 years old. So I'll say it on the air.
the 44-year anniversary of the first
Album
Van
was
Halen record?
yesterday.
The release of the first album. Yeah.
Yeah, it was yesterday. So perfect timing on your part. Way to plan that out.
Yes, you guys are so old.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
28. in October, so you guys are all old. I don't remember any of this Van Halen stuff. No.
And,
You know,
before we get into the specifics of the interviews, Johnny, can we put where everyone can buy the book in the chat, or can we talk, or have Steve tell everyone?
It's in Night. My friend Nightbot here, my moderator, actually has it in the chat. So if anybody, if you need if you need Steve's PayPal address to get the book, just type in !Tone Chaser, all one word, into the chat, and that'll give you the his PayPal address.
and everybody that's
Sorry,
watching
Oh,
the chat, I mean, if you guys really want to get a great book and you guys really want to see some interesting stuff way beyond the YouTube interviews that you can hear of Steve interviewing Ed back in 77, 78, 79, 80, 86, if you really want to contribute to an incredible cause and get something that's, you know, not only interesting, but also a collector's item, please, you know, put in for that, because that's going to be an incredible purchase. And it'll certainly help Steve, and it'll help the whole Van Halen community as a whole. So I'm hoping we can really get some push on that. I really am. We are
alive. Keep it alive, right, Rob?
I really appreciate it, guys. I mean, I really do. I ended up printing the book myself. I had sent it to an English publisher named Omnibus, who do some really fantastic books. I've got some of their books.
Yeah.
And the guy there was telling me, man, you know, you were that close. You were that close, man. We were gonna take the book. And, you know, obviously I was disappointed when he passed, you know, and I wasn't quite sure what to do. And somehow I was talking with, I think I called Neil to say, hey, man, you know any publishers? You know, I figured with his books, he has some connections. I knew his book was on his books are on a really fantastic imprint. Not Hachette. I can't think of it. Anyway, at that point, you know, Neil goes, man, publishers are, you know, they're all fucked, you know, the big advances are gone. Man, I'm printing my own book. I go, really? He goes, yeah, man, I'm going to do it myself, man. I go, wow, you know, I never thought about doing it. Exactly. Well, anybody who knows Neil, you know he's the loudest, most abrasive fat fucker in the room, you know. But, yeah, but he's just an unbelievable guy. And so he's like, do it yourself, man, do it yourself. So I started looking around for printers. I was actually first going to try to get it done through China, you know, and then, you know, the pricing on the books was great, but then, you know, getting the book shipped over here was like, my God, I could have bought a new car. And then, you know, with all the stuff going down, exactly, it would have been cheaper to fly over there. You know, then all the stuff out here with the, you know, the LA ports and, you know, the COVID thing. It's like, yeah, man, your books are at the port, you know, come get them. It's like, yeah, I'm going to go down to the LA port and, you know, with my truck and move my 2,000 books. I don't think so. So, you know, I let that go and I looked around for printers over here and, you know, they wanted like, you know, insane amounts of money. And I finally just found this guy who, like you guys, is a hardcore Van Halen fan. He actually knew some of my work, and this guy has just been fantastic. And so, to make a long story short about people buying the book, you know, I mean, I really tried to price it what I thought was fair. And again, if a publisher was doing it, he probably would have charged more money, and I'd have nothing to do with it. But you know, it really is important to me. Yeah, I'd like to make some money. I mean,
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a fair opinion. But as much as anything else, I mean, I really worked really hard, and I think fans of Ed, fans of mine who've read my interviews or heard them, I think the book just goes 10 levels deeper, you know, and I just think you're really going to dig the book, you know. So
That's awesome.
thanks everybody for all your support.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
Let's tell you
excited.
right now, Steve, that
I'm
we're,
excited.
yeah, Johnny, me too. And I can tell you there's 3 people right here that are absolutely purchasing the book, and I'll probably get a couple of them. And back to the Zlaz thing. Here's my impersonation of Zlaz.
Oh my God.
He's a great guy.
That voice is just a little too polite, and so rough it up a little. Yeah, when I called Neil and told him, "Hey man, do you have the names of any publishers?" He goes, "You have to be a fucking idiot. What are you going to publisher for?" You know. And then so he sits there and he berates me for about 5 minutes, and then he says, "Yeah, do the book yourself. What the fuck, man?"
So
the guy, I love the guy.
my guitar is getting painted right now, so I don't have the body. I actually have the neck hanging over there. But I'm actually going to be reaching out to Zlaz here pretty soon. I have his email address. There is some, well, I can call it debate, but there is some discussion as of, and Steve,
yeah.
I don't know if you know exactly what guitar I'm talking about. It may ring a bell, but Kurt and Johnny do. The Circles guitar that Eddie played back in 1981 in the Fair Warning Tour, which eventually turned into the Rasta guitar, has been kind of in this debate over the years as whether or not it was actually black and white or midnight blue and white. And all the information we're getting, or I've been getting for the last 15 years, has been telling me it's actually midnight blue. And I'm not going to get into the discussion. That doesn't have anything to do with tonight's interview. But back to the Zlaz thing, if anybody has information on that, it would be Neil, because he's the one that took those rock photographs. And I'm really hoping this new book that he's putting out has some color pictures of the Circles guitar, because we're thinking that is not black, that is midnight blue. Yeah. And I got to reach out to Neil and find out, because from it is R2, R3, it is midnight blue. I know that because Rudy painted it that. It's midnight blue. It's not black. Everybody's got it wrong because Rudy painted it, and he said he painted it midnight blue. So it is what it is.
Well, let's ask Steve if he remembers seeing that guitar.
It was a little hard to make out on your phone there, Johnny. I mean, is it it's black and white?
And it's got.
It's hard to see.
Johnny might be able to get that better.
Can you send me that picture?
Did I ever see it up
Yeah.
at 5150? I mean, probably. I mean, he had guitars all over the place, you know, just lying on the floor and, you know, in racks. I mean, I honestly don't know. When you're talking about Rudy, you're talking about Rudy Laren?
Yeah. And Mike, I don't think we'll
Rudy.
know because the guitar is the Rasta now. So, I mean, we'd have to ask whoever owns the Rasta. They'd have to strip the paint off. We're waiting to find some pictures of that guitar back in 81. That's the only way we're going to know. But according to Rudy, he painted it midnight blue, and he went and got the paint. And Edward said, "What's this?" He goes, "Oh, whatever I did." Edward just paint it, because you got to remember that Edward was always trying to turn the corner on people because he was sick of people copying his guitars, and that was his little plug on turning the corner.
There you go.
And you can't tell in that
Yeah.
picture, but if you really look at it in the right light, it's midnight blue.
And Rob,
So
I don't know if you've been on.
I want to go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'll be real quick. On Zloz's website, you can actually go and look at all the photos that he has of Eddie throughout the years.
Yeah.
And you can buy
Atlas
them.
Icons, guys. Go check it out.
You can buy them.
Right. And here's a picture.
And, you know, you might be.
Go ahead, Steve.
And you might be able to get a hold of Neil through Atlas Icon. So if you want, I could give you his email. but if you ask him a question like that, regarding, that is sort of a peripheral question regarding his photos, he might be inclined to answer. I mean, typically he said, I don't know what the fucking color is, but if it's a question, about one of his photos, I mean, he might take the time to answer,
Yes.
kind of thing.
Attach
so I
a
wanna
girl
I'm
in
gonna
a scandalous bikini on the email, and he might answer it.
What's that?
Attach a photo of a girl in a scandalous bikini, he might answer it.
Yeah, then he will.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to ask you guys a question here. So all of you guys, I mean, there's obviously a fairly large community of you guys who are, oh, there it is. Yeah, I've seen that.
So this is a friend of mine's. I didn't mean to cut you off, Steve, but just to put this thing to bed, there's a friend of mine that says that this is actually midnight blue. So you can tell this is midnight blue because it is. He painted it that. And you can tell it looks black in certain lights. And it was midnight blue. It was not black. And nobody got it right. But you can tell the light changes. And that's what Rudy painted it as.
Mm-hmm.
End of story.
Wow. Cool. So what I wanted to ask you guys is, you guys have, I mean, knowing the original color of one of Ed's guitars, or what kind of pickup he had in the guitar, if it's a 58 or 59, or I mean, that's become like religion for you guys. And I mean, I think it's just unbelievable that his influence, was such that, every single thing that he did, is so minutely kind of scrutinized. I guess me in my fashion, I've done the same thing. I mean, I've tried to, it's more sort of the emotional side of it. And, why was Ed the way he was, and not specifically the guitar thing, because you guys know infinitely more than I do. I mean, I don't really know that much about his guitars. I just don't, but it's just pretty amazing that you guys are that, laser focused on that kind of thing. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Rob can tell you what tuners are on what guitar, what color string tree, jack plate.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, Steve, it's funny because we look at you guys are the pioneers. Yourself, Jazz Oberlit, those guys that interviewed Ed back in those days. It's really interesting because everybody always, and this is not a slam against EVH or Ed or Wolfgang or anybody, or Maddie or anybody. It's not because those guys, they're the ones that know everything. They've been there. We don't know anything other than what we've seen in pictures. However, what we all need to remember as fans is Edward Van Halen didn't even remember what he did back in the 80s. A good friend of mine who knew Edward very well had to remind Ed that he had a Kramer neck on the Frankenstrat. Ed was like, I never had a Kramer neck on the Frankenstrat. Well, yeah, you did. You had this Tom Anderson neck on there, and you had the jump neck on there, and then another one. Ed did not even remember that because Edward was always looking forward. He didn't remember what color he painted the Circles guitar. He didn't care about that. He was always chasing his tone. He was always doing something new. He was always into something else. So, people always make me laugh when they say, well, you got to ask this person or ask this person. They don't remember because they're not geeks like we are. They don't focus on the pictures. They don't go back on the internet and scope this stuff out. We do because this is what we enjoy. This is what we love. So we are the ones that focus on this. We are the ones that hone in on it. And that's the passion of what we do. That's why we do it, because we enjoy it. So it always makes me laugh when people say, oh, well, what did Ed say? It doesn't matter what Ed said because I didn't remember, because Ed was always thinking something different. So unless he had that guitar, that 5150 Studios, he couldn't tell you. He didn't know. And that's what keeps the mystery alive. That's what keeps it fun. So we are on a quest as fans of EVH, Edward Van Halen, the whole catalog, to continuously learn and grow. And I'm learning stuff every single day. I don't know everything. I don't really know much of anything. I'm a small pea in a big pot of this whole thing. Hey, but what keeps it fun, is we're always learning. And it's so amazing, Steve, when we have people like yourself that, come out with, these interviews, hit YouTube, or we have an opportunity like tonight to talk to you and find out little details. That's what keeps the spirit alive of the great, the king. And it's just so amazing to be part of this. We're the ones that sit in the background and are like, just enjoy all the work that you guys did all these years.
Well, that's nice, man. And to continue with your thought about Ed not remembering, yeah, the fact that Ed wouldn't remember what color guitar was that he painted yesterday. There are so many moments in the book where he doesn't remember. I'm talking about big events that he does not remember.
Right.
I mean, to the point where I'm so incredulous. I mean, I cannot even. I can't believe. I can't believe this is true. I mean,
right.
And I'll just give you a taste of that. And maybe I've mentioned before. I had the great honor of introducing Ed to Blackmore, Billy Gibbons, and Les Paul.
Wow.
A week later, he never remembered, not only that I introduced him, I don't think he remembered ever meeting them because I'd reference it somehow. And he'd look at me like, oh, you were there when I met him?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so yeah, for him not to remember that, that makes total sense to me. And I knew from the moment I started writing the book that I had to get the chronology of my relationship with him as perfect and as accurate as I could. It's just the way I am. Yeah. It's the archivist in me, or the collector, or the documentarian. I don't know, but it took me, I swear to God, it took me like 3 months to figure out what night I actually met Ed. And I mean, that was so critically important to me. Now I could have written, yeah, I met Ed in 77, and that probably would have been good enough. If we knew what month he had gotten the deal in, I could have worked back a month. And, yeah, I met Ed in August
November.
77.
Yeah.
No one's gonna say anything. But so I thought, how can I figure this out? I tried to track down people who were working at the whiskey at the time. My brother, who was there with me that night. Then I thought, okay, the whiskey, it's a pretty cool site, has a calendar, a history of all the bands who played there. And I thought, oh my God, well, I know it was 77. I know it wasn't 76. I know he had signed a deal. So I had an idea of what that range was. So I go and look, and now we're right in the heart of the punk thing. I would not have gone to the whiskey to see a punk band. I didn't like punk. There's no way I would have gone to the whiskey to see a punk band. So I'm looking to see if slotted in there was some band that I would have gone to see.
Oh, I see.
And on the other side of it, some band that Ed would have been there to see that night. I didn't know if Ed was particularly a punk fan. I didn't think he was. He actually liked some punk stuff. He would tell me later. So I'm trying to think, and I kept looking and and I don't want to give it away, but I found the band that had drawn me out that night, and that's why I was there and why Edward was there. And I thought, oh my God, this is fucking great. I've got 0.0. And that's what took as much time as anything, was kind of researching, or I'd have an interview on a tape, and there was no date on it, which I could shoot myself for because I was pretty good about that, So I'd have to listen to the tape and try to get a clue of when I did it. And certainly if an album title came up, I knew. But sometimes it wouldn't come up, and there'd be a vague reference to something, and I try to put the thing together. So in terms of you guys geeking out over that stuff, I mean, I geeked out heavily, on trying to make the thing accurate, and pulling everything I had out of me to try and remember that moment. And what did he drink that day, and how many cigarettes did he smoke? I mean, I just so wish, and I suppose that's what everybody says after the fact, I wish I'd been even more aware of what was going on, and, what car did he drive over that day, and, but I mean, I think I did a pretty good job of kind of resurrecting, like we talked about, these memories that go back, 77, what is that, 47 years or whatever that is.
44.
So, yeah, 44.
So, Steve, Rob has a guitar there in his hand.
Steve, do you remember this guitar? Ed ever showing you the drag?
Yeah.
Look at that thing.
Yeah, that was up at the house.
I think it was on the cover of maybe the second interview you did with him, right? Guitar World?
No.
Oh, okay.
That was on the cover of I think that was a John Styx story, Guitar for the Practicing Musician, I think. Yeah, that's cool, man.
That's how crazy Rob is.
Did you build that?
So I'm going to give a little plug out to our good friend Chris Locke and Donnie Ward. Chris Locke Custom Guitars did the body and the neck, and a friend of mine, Jeff Rich, did the paint job. I used to paint these things, but I don't have the patience anymore. And I'm 48 years old, and I don't have time to do it. So I just talk to my buddies who do it. And so I had it built, and I bought all the parts and put it together. But Locke Custom Guitars did the body and neck, and it's pretty cool.
Wow.
It's pretty exciting. And on the story on this guitar, Steve, I don't know if you remember, but this was actually a black Gibson Explorer.
Charvel.
Oh, Charvel. I'm sorry, Kurt. You're right, 100%. And it had a Dan Electro neck on it at the time. And Ed gave this body to a guy by the name of John Sterry, who was a furniture maker. And he carved it and turned it into the dragon snake. And on the back of the real one, it says John. I think it's John F. Sterry, I think. So I actually used the same font and had the guy that painted it, Jeff Rich, put his initials on it. So font. So it's a pretty cool guitar. At the EVH Con, the guys played "Light Up the Sky" from Van Halen 2 on this guitar, and it just rips. So it's a cool guitar. The Dragon
is like that.
Cool.
Thought you get a kick out of that.
Yeah,
that's cool, man.
It's amazing.
My cat won't let me hold him like that.
Yeah, Rob collects guitars. I have Ned right here.
Ned.
This is my guy. Yeah.
Kurt holds me like that sometimes.
So, Steve, hopefully everyone in the chat, a majority of them either have already purchased the book or places an order tonight. It'll be kind of cool to see how many additional orders you get tonight after the show. But what's the estimated release date? I know you have a month or two buffer there, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, exactly. A month or two bumper. That's a polite way to put it. Well, yeah. Since I've never had a book printed before, I had no idea what the turnaround time was for a book once everything was at the printers. So even backing up a step, the book, needs to be formatted. Unlike a publisher where you just, send a Word manuscript, 350 pages of, of a manuscript. The book has to be formatted, and you guys have seen. I think you guys read books, right? I'm kidding.
Oh,
I mean, so you got, you got the margins, and that's a thing. And it's when the text lines up
Stops.
right and left, and there's a term, and my guy Daniel Gray told me, so to get that, so some of the letters need to be spaced out, so it, and
right
then,
to left,
doing
top
the
to
cover
bottom.
is exactly. So, I mean, it's a thing, and everything's got to be indented, so he's got to go through, and get the font face, and, you have to go through and format basically every line, because every line is different, they're different. So getting the book formatted properly will take him about a month. And Daniel, I mean, this is what he does. He art directs for Honda and Nestle's. I mean, the guy's fantastic. So somebody like him, it's like a month. So I've asked the printer, what's your turnaround time? And they say 6 or 7 weeks. So initially, I think I was saying I was going to have the book kind of like by March or April, thinking I'd have the book ready by kind of January. That didn't happen. The book should be done and formatted by the end of this month. So the printer will have the book March 1, God willing. And so I kind of default to the far end of it. So let's call it 8 weeks. Let's call it 2 months. So I'm hoping at the end of April, is that right? End of April, beginning of May, I'll start shipping out the books. And what I've done just to try to be fair is the way that I've sort of got the orders in is that the people who kind of ordered first will get their books first, and then just kind of work back chronologically.
Yep.
So
Your last, Bert.
So
No, Johnny and I ordered. I think the next morning that you announced it, right?
I can't.
Yeah, I ordered the second
really
it was
appreciate it,
announced.
guys.
I ordered one. Yeah.
I mean, some of you guys may know. I've done 7 books previously. And Rob, you had mentioned earlier that I interviewed Prince and Springsteen. I never actually interviewed them. I wrote books on them. But I never interviewed them. I sort of put them together from, reference stuff. And I interviewed, guys who had played with Prince and his engineer and people who had played with Bruce and stuff. But the point being, I mean, those books took me probably like 3 months to finish. And like I said, this book was 14 months. And beyond all of that, I mean, I've waited so long to do the book, and it took me so long to do it that, to finally have the book in my hand to see it, and know it's this real thing. I think I'll be as jazzed as, hopefully you guys and, the fans are about having the books in their hands. So, man, I'm excited. I mean, I really am.
Steve, what was the knowing that the interviews that you did that have been out on, for the public, and just enjoying every second of it. I remember, I think in the 78 interview, you're asking Ed about the breakdown at the end of You Really Got Me. You're like, how did you do this little, you go, you even said, you go like that. And, Ed just gets on and he's playing acoustically. I think he must have been playing a Strat. I don't think he had his Frankie, because he was talking about the bar doesn't go down low enough or whatever. And then, you asked him about, I think, Ain't Talking About Love. Like, and Ed's like, oh man, it's simple. It's like 2 chords. He plays the intro to Ain't Talking About Love, which is my favorite Van Halen song. You can hear in the interviews, you can hear your reaction to Ed, who's just like your normal everyday next door neighbor, just hopped out of the swimming pool, came over, had a cheeseburger at the cookout, and you're just sitting there talking about these riffs. And he's doing the little, he's playing the solos to Beautiful Girls and all these different songs. And at what point, I guess my question is, did you say to yourself, wow, this fucking guy is insane. There is a magical talent here that this guy's going to go, like, he's just going to explode.
you know, you guys might shoot me for this. So I'm sitting there and, you know, yeah, I asked him about that ending little riff in, oh, I'm sorry, Daniel Gray just texted me here and he said something about the format and stuff. Anyway, Daniel, if you're listening, hey, bud, the art,
Thanks,
my
Daniel.
art director,
Get
my
back to
art
work.
director, the art director. You know,
Carry
Bob,
on.
we talk about that last little riff in "You Really Got Me." I just thought it was so unbelievable, and then he plays it, you know, and there's so many points, there's so many ways I can come at this question, but let me go to the heart of it. What I was going to say initially, I don't know if it was in this interview where he's playing the Deep Purple stuff. Is he playing Highway Star in one of those interviews that I have on YouTube? Again, I can't remember if it was what, you know, where he played what. I had seen tons of guys play that Highway Star solo, you know, that you know, you know, and that triplet thing that Richie gets going. And to me, as sort of a good guitar player, not a great guitar player, I could never get it. I had heard really good guitar players who could play it, but they still never had that pulse and that triplet thing that Richie had. Well, when Ed was in the house, you know, we started talking about Purple. He goes, yeah, we used to do Highway Star or something. And he starts playing that. At that moment, I said, oh my God, this guy is really that fucking good. Sitting, you know, 3 feet away from him playing my Strat, not plugged in. And to play that, it's like you see him on stage and he's got his rig and the sound is amazing. And you hear him on record and his guitar sound is amazing. But you hear him, you know, he's in your front room and he's playing these parts that, I mean, I've heard that song 1,000 times, you know, and I know how fucking hard it is to play. I'm not saying it's the hardest song in the world to play, but he played it so effortlessly and so perfectly. And I thought, holy fucking God, I thought this to myself, this guy really is a fucking extraordinary guitar player, you know, and really it was that. And then he did the Crossroads solo. And I thought, which I think is one of the greatest solos ever. But, you know, he like emulated Clapton's finger vibrato, which is probably the most flawless finger vibrato that's ever been put on record. In my mind, there was nobody who had finger vibrato like that. I mean, you know, come on. And he did that, you know, and he hadn't played the song in a while. And he's, you know, it comes to one point, he's kind of noodling and he can't think of it, you know, and kind of, and then he gets it, you know, and like you can see, you know, that fucking, you know, memory muscle kicking in. So yeah, man. So those are the moments when I thought, oh my God, how extraordinary is he? And then as time went on and he'd come over and, you know, he'd be playing me the tracks and you know, with no vocals. And it's hard for me to remember if there was even bass on these tracks. I mean, there probably was bass and drums, but certainly no vocals. And I'd hear his guitars naked and I'd go, oh God.
Wow.
You know, but then you know, you'd watch him up close and you can't. I mean, I tried to describe it in the book, and I tried not to use the same adjectives over and over. He was just somebody special, and I'd been around a lot of special guitar players, and I'd seen a lot of these guys playing up close, you know. And there were moments that blew me away, and I write about this in the book. You know, I sat there on a bed with Jeff Beck, who's playing one of my Strats. I actually brought him a guitar I had. It was a '73 all maple Strat. It's a really beautiful guitar. Oh, somebody just ordered a book. There's no name on it, but thank you, whoever that was. Really, thank you. And I'm watching Jeff, you know, kind of do his thing, and that to me was a miracle.
Yeah.
I was up at Steve Vai's house in his studio, and I was sitting like, you know, 2 feet away from Steve, and Steve was showing me this new piece of gear he had. And Steve, you know, with his fingers that are like, you know, eight inches long, was doing this thing. And I thought, oh my God, you know, this guy is special. There weren't that many moments where I thought that, you know, these guys were like just a level above everybody else. Yeah, you know. So yeah, and the more I was around Ed, the more I realized how truly remarkable he was. And it wasn't just as a guitar player; it was as a songwriter and an arranger, and the way he piled his guitar parts on each other when there were rhythm tracks and not just the rhythm track going away, him doing a solo. I mean, the structures of his songs were unbelievable. I mean, I don't think Ed, though he knew it, I know he knew because we talked about it. It's not like you would hear his songs and go, oh yeah, intro, verse, B section, chorus, bridge. I mean, I don't think he ever thought like that. I don't think he ever thought about songs in terms of a vocal going over it. So it was just, he was just a unique person in all this world. And for him to receive these accolades and this adulation and this reverence and to be seen in this sort of, holy pantheon, with, Hendrix, Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, I mean, certainly, I mean, he deserves, all of that. Absolutely.
It's funny, Steve, one of the interviews you did, I think it was the 79 era one. He's playing the intro to Light Up the Sky. And it's funny because Ed, it's pretty obvious when you listen to the interview how Ed understood the makeups of the songs that he wrote, because he plays the intro to Light Up the Sky, and he goes, and the bass goes, and he plays it down. And he's talking about like how he just knew everything. So whether he coached Michael Anthony on, hey, I want you to play this going down, I'm going to play it going up, whatever, like it's or maybe he didn't, I don't know, but whatever. But he understood so much about the structure of how he wanted the song to be. And it was amazing, the questions that you would ask him in those interviews. It's interesting because in all the interviews, specifically the 77, 78, 79, even the 81, when he would be constantly noodling on the guitar, you would spark something. You'd ask a question, and you could almost tell, like he'd start talking, and boom, you could say something like fire in his brain, and then he'd just play the riff. And it was just, it's almost ingenious the way that you phrased the questions. And I remember at one point, Ed asks you, so how old are you anyway? And you go, I'm 25. And how long you been doing it? And you're just like, well, I just kind of got going, whatever, and doing this, doing that. It's funny, like Ed starts interviewing you, which I thought was so he must have just been the coolest guy to hang around. Yeah, exactly. Personal, Kurt. Exactly. He must have been the coolest guy to hang around with.
He was the fucking greatest. I always said that if Ed had never played, if he was Edward Van Halen, but maybe he was just a guitar player in a club band, or maybe if he never played music at all, I would like to think that we still would have been friends. I don't know. I mean, that's such a an impossible question to answer. But I mean, honestly, I'm so blown away that the minutiae of those interviews.
Yeah.
I mean, because I couldn't tell you that interview, that those questions came from that interview, and that Light Up the Sky was from that interview. To try to cover your points, I'm pretty positive that Ed had Mike, whoever went up and who went down, for Mike to do the opposite. I don't think Mike came up with that part. I think one of the interviews, I think I'd asked Ed, do you tell, or Mike maybe had told me that, he would just kind of come up with a part to kind of complement Ed's, riffs and stuff. I mean, I know that Ed had input under those bass parts. I mean, I know he did. And when the records, start getting a little more advanced and, Fair Warning and stuff, and some of the bass parts are a little more intricate. I know that Ed had input on those. And in terms of Ed interviewing me, and I write I write about this actually fairly at length in the book. For him to ask me that question, it just showed so much respect for what I did. And
Yeah.
you know, you can hang out with somebody and like what they do and not necessarily, you know, not necessarily have a great deal of respect for them. You can like what they do. But I mean, for him to ask me that, I mean, he was interested enough to ask me. And in my mind, I read it as respect. And, you know, up at the house, and you can kind of see some of the pictures here. Every wall in my condo here is, you know, filled with pictures of me and guys. In fact, you can,
Yeah.
sorry, the
I
opposite
know.
one.
I can't figure it out either. I'm like mirror image. I don't-
That's me and Blackmore, and that's Martin Barr and White Snake and Glenn Hughes. Anyway, so he was looking at the pictures, and a lot of times he'd ask me questions. He goes, "Oh, look at that picture of you and Zappa." It's a funny Zappa picture. We're both playing guitars and we're like rocking out, you know. And for him to say that and ask how old I was, like, you know, I mean, I think he asked a question because I thought maybe he thought I had done some things, you know, and maybe I was older than I was. So, you know, yeah, he'd ask me that stuff, and it was like just so extraordinary for my ego. And I love the guy, and he was always like that. And I don't know if I've talked about it before, but it sort of translates into the title of the book, Tone Chaser. And I won't talk about that because I want to save that. But Understanding Edward, when I came up with that, I really love that because it works on two levels. One, it's, you know, understanding Edward. It's like trying to understand who he is, the fans trying to understand who he is, you guys trying to understand him as a guitar player and why he did what he did with that neck and that body. And the other sort of a more subtle subtext there is understanding Edward, as in he's an understanding individual. He's this respectful individual. He's this, you know, supportive individual, you know, understanding Edward. You know, and he was really that person. He just, he had this innate sense of understanding, you know, what you needed to hear. And, you know, he was always supportive of me, which isn't to say he wasn't honest, because he was unbearably honest.
Yeah.
And, if I was up at the house and he wanted to work, he'd say, "Hey, man, I'm going to work. I'll see you later." I go, yeah. I mean, I get it, you know, I mean, and his responses sometimes can be abrupt. You know, if I said something wrong or he misinterpreted, and that happens in the book, and I write all about that. But yeah, man, I just, he was just an amazing guy. I mean, he was understanding Edward. I mean, he
Keith
truly
Campbell,
was. So, yeah.
Keith Campbell said something a few minutes ago. He said Edward was very disarming. I always wanted to know about you. And I know, Steve, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Johnny and Kurt, you probably are. Dwyer and Michaels, which was a radio station in Iowa, would basically just randomly back in 2004, when they got back with Hagar, would just pick up the phone and just call Ed. Somehow they got his number, and Ed would just pick it up and be like, "Hey, man, I'm taking, you know, whatever. I'm like going to the bathroom or whatever. I'm restringing the guitar. What do you want?" They just did this for like, you know, for months, and it just went on and on and on. And Ed would just sit there and entertain these two knuckleheads, you know, not to stand those guys, but just entertain these two knuckleheads. And Ed was like, "Come on, man, I'm working," like, you know, whatever. And then they developed this relationship with him. And Ed would, like, in the middle of their interview, be like, "So who are you guys anyways? What are you guys doing?" "Oh, that's cool. We're just two radio guys in Iowa." "That's cool." And he would just he would ask them questions about them. You know, it was always like Ed was just the plainest guy. He never wanted to be in the spotlight. I mean, his famous thing was, you know, it's like, "What's a rock star?" "It's like a meteor, comet, or something. You know, I'm just a musician." He would be like, "Rock stars come and go. I'm just a musician." And that was always that kind of impish, kind of smiley, kind of grin, whatever, you know, "I'm just nobody. I'm just a bricklayer" type thing. He's just a kid making music. And I remember in the 1986 interview you did with him, you know, you guys were talking about Roth, and Ed said some pretty interesting things about Roth and leaving and Haggard coming, and Ed's talking about the Steinberger Trans-Trem guitar and everything. And then I think it went on for a while, and finally Ed said to you, you mentioned a minute ago, Ed was kind of abrupt. He would you'd hit something, you'd say something, and it would kind of strike something. And Ed said to you, he goes, "Not too much more about him, okay? Please don't talk about Roth anymore." He just kind of said that. It was kind of funny, and then you guys just kind of switched gears.
That would happen. It would happen a lot. And I go into the book in depth, and that happened a lot. I mean, there were really heavy moments with him, and I write about that. But yeah, at a point in time, he'd knock Roth, he'd knock Roth. I'd ask one more question about Dave, and he'd go, "Yeah, that's it. I don't want to talk about him anymore." Yeah, he was. He had his moods.
Yeah.
Ed was really two people. He was probably 1,000 people, but you know, he was the Eddie Van Halen on stage, and he was bigger than life, and he was loud, and it was the smile, and it was the guitar, and it was that thing, you know. And then there was the Edward Van Halen that I knew off stage, who was a fairly shy guy. I mean, you know, he did that. I mean, I know about that, you know, talking to those guys. I don't know if I ever heard it. I heard about it. 2004 would have been after, you know, we kind of parted ways. But I did hear about that. And he would do stuff like that. But I think he was on the other side of being this guy on stage. He was extraordinarily secure in who he was as a musician. I mean, and again, I go into this in the book, and I don't want to give it away. There's nothing to give away, but I never heard Ed in all the time I knew him saying, wasn't that a fucking great solo, man? Have you ever heard anything like that? Oh, that band is, you know, fucking sucks. Or, you know, Van Halen's the best fucking band. He never said that because he never had to say that.
Wow.
Right.
On the other side of that, saying to Ed, my God, that solo, you know, on Beane Street was amazing. You go, yeah. And it's almost as if, you know, either he really didn't want to hear it, he didn't need to hear it, he was embarrassed by it, or somehow it you know, it like took away from his art. Like I didn't need to say that. He didn't need to hear it to know how good that was. So he was really two different people. And I saw this other side of him, and there were some other sides that I saw that I write about in the book, and you'll read about that, and I think you'll really be kind of blown away by reading some of this stuff, because I mean, there's some stuff in there I don't think anybody really knows about him or knew about him. And yeah, I some of the stuff I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't write about that, but I did. I had to be honest with myself, and I kind of lay myself out there sometimes in not so flattering ways. So I had to be as honest as I could with everything. So
Sure.
Yeah, he was an enigmatic personality. He was a complex guy. I mean, he truly was. I mean, he really, really was.
Steve, do you? I'm just going to jump into the guitar stuff a little bit here, because I know a whole bunch of people in the chat are going to want us to ask some questions, and we really forget. We haven't spent too much time going through the questions. We probably should do that in a second, because I'm sure there's a whole bunch of people that want to ask.
Yeah, questions. I've got some as well.
Yeah, just one quick thing is, do you recall? I'm sure you saw and got to play the Frankenstrat, the red, white, and black guitar. I'm sure you saw it when it was black and white before he painted it red and after. Are there any memories?
Yeah, there's a photo of Steve holding that. Sorry. There's a photo of Steve holding that Day of the Green. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, Steve, right.
what memories jump out at you from a guitar perspective? And I'm sure you've seen a whole ton of them. You can't remember them all, but maybe you talk about in the book, and certainly don't want to destroy any kind of, take away from the mystery of what's in the book, because we're all excited for it. But any particular stories that you remember or recall from Ed saying, "Hey, check out this guitar," like one of his famous ones? Any ones that you remember? Like, I actually got to play that guitar, one of the real cool ones.
Well, I mean, like you said, the Day in the Green was the black and white one. I had played that guitar. I mean, I had held it. I played the Frankenstrat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at those young lads.
Oh my God.
Steve, I love the hair.
Oh, isn't that great? Well, thank God you can't see the shorts. My God, these shorts. But I had good legs back then, guys. I mean, let's face it.
Did they even qualify as shorts, or like a bikini?
Oh my God, why I ever wore those?
Hey, they're coming back, Steve. They're coming back.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, there you go. And obviously, that's a slow sour shot. And what you don't know, and I'm going to pique your interest, is the back cover, which no one has seen yet, was another shot that Neil had shot that day. I never even knew. I said, "Hey, Neil, is it possible you had another shot from the Day on the Green?" So I remember going to his house, the studio over in Hollywood. And, he pulled out the folder and he's looking. He said, "Oh, yeah, here's the second one." So that second shot that no one has ever seen is on the back. And I mean, I was blown away. To me, it's like, it's not that, not that session, of course. It's from the session of the Day on the Green photo you just showed. Yeah. So it's another shot from there. So in answer to your question, yeah, I played a fair amount of his guitars. It's funny, when he brought the Les Pauls over, I have no doubt that I could have picked one up and started playing it. I didn't want to, because, I thought, I didn't want to transfer my mojo onto the guitar. And,
right.
I'd get done playing it, he'd pick it up and not be able to play it because I left my curse on it or something, But, so, I mean, I played his Frankenstrat, and he had, several of those. I mean, up at 5150. I mean, I don't know what they were, but they were painted like that.
Yeah,
And
like
typically, like I said, his guitars.
Like
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
there you go.
And there's about 6 other shots from that session as well. That was by Glenn LaFurman.
Yes. Hi, Glenn.
Johnny, is that
Glenn shot that?
Gutierrez guitar?
Yeah, my buddy owns that particular guitar now.
That's awesome.
My buddy Michael Gutierrez, he won that guitar at the 85 NAMM show, big contest. And I've gotten to play that. I've gotten to play that guitar as well. Yeah.
I was at that NAMM show. I remember that.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. So I played that. I played the Frankenstrat. I played the Bumblebee, the black and white one. I mean, he had that V up there, and I remember it was lying on the floor, and the floor orchestra. This is pre 5150 when he just had like a little 16-track rig up there, man. I mean, his studio was a pigsty. I mean, half the faders were like empty. There was no modules in there, and he used to flick his ashes in there. I mean, cigarettes, and you're not supposed to smoke in a studio. You know what it does to gear and guitars. I mean, the floors were filthy, and this guitar, you guys would know better than me what that guitar is worth. But I mean, it was just on the floor without a case. And this, this is probably gonna,
$500,000 for 58V. Yeah.
This is going to cause you guitar guys to look me up and come burn down my front door. I thought his guitars played like shit. I thought that Frankenstrat, the way that, the thing and his bar was like a fucking, like a huge metal tube, and it hung there. And, it's like you couldn't jerk back. And if you jerk back, it was like nothing. Like it's like, it took like both hands to push down on it. And his neck, I thought, would be like effortless, it'd be like, and I was like, oh my God, I swear to you, I could not play it. Again, I'm not a great guitar player. I was a good guitar player, good enough to play it. It just was not an easy guitar to play. Now, you guys might play those same guitars, goes, my God, this guitar plays fantastically. I didn't, the necks for my fat, stubby hands, were too big, too wide. The profile in the back, I thought the strings were too heavy. Other than that, they played great. It's just fine. But seriously, that those are my main memories. I thought, my God, how does he play these guitars?
Steve, did you get a chance to
I
play
think
this
in one of the interviews, I don't know if that's one that was up on my YouTube page, Ed comes over with a Bumblebee, and I'm playing this Strat. And again, I can't remember if this conversation, if there's audio exists of this, or you guys might have read the text. And he says, oh, hey, why don't you try my guitar? So we trade guitars. And I actually write about this in the book, and I think it's pretty funny, and I don't want to give this away. But I mean, it played like shit.
Yeah.
He plays my guitar, which I could never keep in fucking tune. And my guitar was pretty cool. It was a 66 Strat. And the two, the front and the middle pickups were original. Somebody had hollowed out the rear and put in a humbucker, but it appealed to Ed for just that reason. And he loved it. And I think I paid $150 for it. When I told Ed that, he goes, yeah, $150? I go, yeah. I mean, he dug that because, Ed never paid more than, I think he told me $400 for any guitar. So he loved that aspect of it. But, we traded guitars, and I tried to play, and it's like, I sounded just as bad on my guitar as I did on his. In the meantime, you can hear him, all the stuff he was playing on my guitar. And, I mean, he could have, let's face it, he could have played anything.
Do you remember one of the interviews where he was messing with one of your Strats, and I think he asked, do you mind if I move the volume pot?
Yeah.
And he was, I think he moved the volume pot down one slot so he could play it. Do you remember that?
I remember that perfectly. And my question to you is, I thought he said, can I take off? I thought he said, can I take off the knob?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Oh.
Right. So my question to you guys, knowing every fucking thing about these guitars, and if I can get the right answer from you, I'm going to go back and make the edit. And no, I'm not going to share in the proceeds of the book. I'll just give you a thank you. But no, I'm kidding.
That's fine.
Thank you, Kurt, with a K.
Exactly. But what I never knew, when he said knob, I didn't know if he was talking about, and now that I think about it, so I didn't know if he was talking about the volume knob or the actual toggle switch knob.
He was probably.
In other words, when he said, can I take off the knob? Now that I think about it, he wouldn't have referred, would he have referred to the toggle switch, the little plus end on the end of the toggle as a knob? Or was he referring indeed to the volume knob or the tone knob?
He was probably talking about the tone knobs, Steve, because he took tone knobs off of pretty much everything. There's actually pictures of the Dragon Snake. I have mine on, but Ed never used tone knobs back then. He only used a volume knob. On the Les Pauls and stuff like that, because there's 4 knobs, he would probably leave them, and he would kind of get comfortable where the volume knob was. But he would take off the knobs that he didn't use. Ed never liked more. He just wanted a one pickup, one knob. That was it.
No interference.
Right. So my guess would be, from based off of pictures, it would be the tone knob or a toggle switch. He never liked that. And that's
the other thing, Rob, too, is his he used to take the fenders, and he would take the volume knob. They were so close to the bridge pickup.
Right.
He would actually put it in the first tone knob slot.
Right.
And it's hard to tell in the interview. I didn't know if he was taking apart your guitar with a screwdriver. Did he take the scratch plate off and move the volume knob?
No. Interesting. No.
Okay.
Certainly, if he had asked for a screwdriver or whatever you needed, no. because that's when I say, he's boogling on it, and then I say, oh, does it come off? And I think he says something like, it should. And in the book, I write about this. Like, when he says it should, it's like, he fucking well knows. I mean, how many of these knobs has he taken off? He knows. I think he's just being courteous to me when he was thinking, you fucking moron. You don't know if the knob comes off? You know what I mean?
That's hilarious.
But so my question is, he was taking it off because, not because, look, I understand that he only had the one volume knob on his guitars, but I think he was taking it off because it physically got in the way of when he played, right?
Yes.
That's
So
what Kurt does. That's what
you
Kurt
think that would have been? So do you think that would have been more the tone knob or the volume knob?
probably the tone knob, because what Kurt's saying is Ed did not like the volume knob so close to the strings. He liked it down a little bit. So what he would do?
So why wouldn't he have taken? So why wouldn't it have been the volume knob?
He would take
the volume knob.
He would take the volume knob off the whole pot, take the tone knob down, and then move the volume down to where the where the tone was.
Okay. So we obviously
further.
Gotcha. So we obviously didn't do that on my guitar. But what's weird is, so he takes that off, but the little, whatever you call the piece at the, isn't it like a little round, the thing that the knob fits on? It's like a little, I don't know what you would call it,
Yeah, the pot itself. Well, basically, yeah.
The pot,
Potentiometer. Yeah.
Right. So, so the pot is still sticking up, so it's still going to be in the way a little bit. You know what I mean? That's why I thought he was taking off the toggle switch. So, I mean, the toggle on the Strat is a toggle on the top. I can't even think. Or is it toggle on the bottom? I mean,
no, it's closer to the smaller horn. So it's after or before the
Strat. There you go.
There you go.
Oh, shit. So on a 66 Strat, that's what it would have been.
Right.
Yeah, they're all like that.
Okay. Yeah. So.
But Steve, what we're saying is that I think one of the things he was doing was he didn't like the volume knob so close to the strings. So what he would do, he didn't do it on your guitar, obviously, but he would take the tone knob off and he would move the volume knob down here. So it had more, he had more, it had more distance.
Gotcha. So I guess, really then what makes sense is he took off the volume knob. Just maybe it was just getting in his way a little bit. I mean, the guitar wasn't plugged in.
Because he would always
all right, I'm gonna
flutter pick. He would flutter pick, so he would hit the knob and needed to be moved.
All right, so I'm gonna go back. I think that's what I ended up thinking it was. So I'm gonna put that in there, and if it's wrong, I know the four guys I'm coming after. Yeah.
Dr. Kurtz. Steve, did you remember playing this guitar? Did you remember playing the Ibanez Sharp Destroyer?
Never played that one.
78, 79.
Yeah.
That's what he played. You really got me.
Is that the one that he? Is that the one that he? Women and Children First. He cut it up and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some pretty fun stories in the book about that.
Oh, cool.
Very cool. Thank you, Philip. Philip wrote a nice little thing here. Can everybody in the chat room see these comments, or just us?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody
can see them. Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Philip.
Hey, Philip.
Yeah, it's funny, Steve, the little things in your interviews that we catch on to.
It's
just because we're nerds,
It's unbelievable because, in the moment, I'm more fixated on him, playing guitar at all, because, obviously I was hoping he would play guitars whenever he came over, but I wasn't saying, hey, here's my guitar, playing stuff. So, so I'm thinking more about that. The fact that he wanted to take the knob off. I actually write about that a little bit in the book. I realized that's a pretty cool moment, but it's not like I'm thinking, oh, that's going to be, people are going to look at that and go, oh, wow,
Big
how
deal,
fucking
right.
cool. He took a knob off. You know what I mean?
And Steve, real quick, tell everyone in the chat that may not know, you guys had a formula, I think, for the first 3, maybe 4 albums where he would come over after they were done tracking the tracks, and he would bring over a tape and he would go track by track with you, right?
He did, it was pretty fantastic. In fact, the first time he came over to the house, the first interview I did with him was was that phoner, and then I interviewed him again. Yeah, he came over to the house, I think before the second album, and the album wasn't out yet. I hadn't heard the album. Nobody had heard the album, so I was thinking, how am I even gonna do the interview? I've done a couple of interviews in the past, where I'd never heard a record. And the record, the interviews, honestly, they suck. How do you do an interview with somebody if you haven't heard their record?
Right.
So,
right.
He came over that first time, the first time I was at the house, and he says, hey, man, let's go out to the car. And that's when he still had that beater piece of shit. I can't remember what it was, like a Valiant or
a Vega.
I think he told me later he paid $700 for it, and I write in the book that he got ripped off. It was a piece of shit. It was horrible. But then we go, and he had this boom box, a monster, boom box. He goes, yeah, man, listen to the record. And so we went, we came down the stairs from my place, and I didn't know what we were going to do. I thought he wanted to go take a drive or something. I didn't care what he wanted to do. I said, hey, whatever you wanted. And then he played me all the tracks. And I think he may have given me titles, but I didn't even have a pen and paper. So I didn't even, I couldn't take notes. I tried to remember, oh, it's a fast boogie, fast boogie, fast boogie. Then the next song will come on. I'm going, oh, it's a mid-tempo, mid-tempo, mid-tempo. Oh, the solo, So by the time I got back to the house, I didn't remember anything. But yes, that was sort of became a tradition. And he did that up through, the first record, second record, Women, Children First, Fair Warning. That was the next one, Diver Down. I get my chronology mixed up. Yeah, I think before the records.
Fair Warning.
That's right.
It was just, I'm sorry.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, Fair Warning.
Yeah. It was, I love those moments. And then, we'd go in the house we'd go in the house. Because typically I always came over to my place to listen to that stuff, which I always thought was amazing. And then he'd pick up the guitar, and then he'd show me what he was playing. And as amazing as it sounded on record, now you're hearing him, and, you can watch his pick attack, and God, just his fingers on the neck. I was just astonished every time. It was special. God, I wish there had been some fucking video. At least I got it on tape, and at least I, have memories enough to kind of recreate that for everybody, to kind of, sort of live in that moment, sort of be a fly on the wall with me. And those were amazing moments.
Steve, you mentioned, we don't want to, certainly don't want to touch on subjects that we don't want to talk about. Do you recall your last meeting when's the last time you met with Ed, and what was the last time you got to hang out with him in a positive way? Do you remember the last time you got to hang out with him, what year it was, and what you guys did? Were you playing guitar?
I kind of rather not talk about that.
Sure, no problem.
I think it's an extraordinary story, and not that I'm trying to be like this secretive guy, but I think I think when you read the book and you come to those parts, if you don't know
Sure.
what's going to happen, I think for all you guys too. So
Absolutely.
thank you guys.
Yeah. Sure.
What I would like
And
to talk
Steve, I
about
think,
just for a moment here, if I might. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say real
I was
quick, I
just gonna
think he
say-
lived at home until 81 or 1980 before he
Oh,
even
yeah.
had his own
Yeah.
place. That's probably why he
Yeah.
always came to your
You
place.
know, that is absolutely correct. And I even write about a little book, and this I can talk about. When he offered to come by my place the first time, I knew that he still lived at home because I think in our first conversation at the whiskey, he had told me that, or on the phone in one of the conversations, but I knew he lived at home. So, we did the first interview. He wanted to come over. I said, Ed, I don't want you to drive from Pasadena. I mean, Pasadena to the Hollywood Hills, no traffic. I mean, that's like a good 35, 30-minute schlep with no traffic on the 134 freeway. I mean, it's not like you're around the corner, and with any traffic, it's an hour. And I thought to myself, he's going to get on the freeway, get stuck in traffic. By the time he arrives at the house, he's going to be in an LA traffic mood, and the interview is going to be for shit. I said, Ed, I'll happily drive out there. No, I'll drive. I get Ed, I'll drive. He goes, no, man, I'll come out there. So, yeah. So you're right. That's exactly why he used to come out. And I thought the fact that this guy, this gifted beyond words, human life form, they're on their second record. And I don't know if he lived there till the third record, lives at home. I just thought the backstory that he lived at home with his parents it was perfect. It wasn't like he was living at some apartment in Hollywood or, you know what I mean? Or renting some house out in the valley, San Fernando Valley. He lived at home with his parents. I mean, it was so perfect. You know what I mean? It was just, you couldn't have written that script.
Valerie even mentioned that back in the 1982 interview. She's like, you live at home with your parents. And Ed's like, that's not true. And she's like, yeah, it is.
It was amazing. Yeah. The first time he moves out is when he moves into Valerie's house. Yeah. And that was another little thing that I had to get straight. I tried to figure out, when did I go up there for the first time? And did Ed buy that house? I had to go back and forth, and I looked and I talked to people, and I realized that was Valerie's house that he moved into. So when he moved out, he didn't even have a house to move into. I mean, certainly by that time, I'm sure he probably could have afforded to, rent a place. And I know that he had bought his parents a house and retired his dad, so he was making some money.
Yeah.
But that was Valerie's house. So, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So yeah, man. Let me just say, I think I told you this last time you were on the show, but one of my favorite interviews of yours with Edward is the Guitar World, that cover story, the life and times of Edward Van Halen.
Yes.
July 85, I believe is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. That one, and then there was a time when you tagged along with him to the NAMM show.
Yeah.
And it might have been it wasn't the 85 NAMM where my friend won the guitar. It was like maybe another one the same year.
It was the 85 NAMM show in New Orleans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
those were fantastic moments. I mean, firstly, that 85 interview, The Life and Times of Edward Van Halen. I mean, that's one of my favorite interviews. It just, I knew when it was done that this came out really well. I was really happy with it. And in fact, I write about this in the book. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
And I love that the cello and the sax are there, and that gets kind of referenced. And I actually talk about the cello. It's a fantastic story you're going to love in the book about his cello. The Life and Times of Edward Van Halen. Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Got a
That's the
picture of
guitar I played, and
Yep, big
it sounded
poster.
like shit on.
And they had a Kramer neck on. Had a Kramer chicken hawk beak neck because he was with Kramer at the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool.
And I do also talk about Kramer in the book.
Here's
And
the
there's some
cello.
interesting things I say.
Here's
Yeah.
the cello.
Yeah.
His
Cool.
dad was teaching him sax, so he's taking some sax lessons.
The sax is right next to him, I think,
Mhm.
Yeah.
in that picture.
So that issue, The Life and Times of Edward Van Halen, I won't go into detail because it's in the book, but that title came from Guitar World, and that was ostensibly going to be the title of the book that I was going to write on Ed back in '85, and
Oh, okay.
some of those early interviews were going to actually be serialized on the pages of Guitar World, and then appear as chapters in the book. And I write about that, and you'll hear sort of the real story behind that. And the NAMM in New Orleans story I go into, and
Yeah.
anybody that's read that, I add a lot of the backstory, and that was an unbelievable time. I mean, that was fun. That was fun. You know,
That's one of my very favorites. The one where you tag along to the
Oh, thank
NAMM
you.
show and you go to the house and you call over. The story. You
Oh.
call over, nobody answers, and then you guys fly over and people are girls are taking pictures of him while he's sleeping on the plane and all these like really cool. I've always envisioned all that reading that back then. It's just
I've got to tell you, man,
awesome.
when you guys sort of pull quotes or moments from my stories like that, you have, I mean, I can't even tell you how much that means to me. I mean, it's like when I used to write stories, I used to think, is anybody really going to read this story? I mean, I knew they were. I
Right.
knew I was
Mhm.
writing, for big, but it's like, I couldn't conceive of somebody sitting there with a magazine looking at it. And if they did read it, was it forgotten after they go to the next story on this other guitar player? And it was hard for me to envision that, So for you guys to reference stories that I wrote, what is that, 40 years ago or 42 years ago, to me is just like, I mean, it's the reason that I began writing, honestly, man, was to touch people and reach people and hopefully have something that I wrote last. And I mean,
Mhm.
it's everything to me. So,
That's awesome.
I'm so appreciative of that. I mean, you have no idea, honestly.
Well, Steve, it's just so
Do
amazing.
you talk about? Sorry, Rob. Do you talk about the football game that you went to with Eddie? Do you talk about that in the book?
Oh my God. Have I referenced that somewhere? I didn't even
I've
think
heard
that
it.
was
Yeah.
even referenced. Oh my God. You won't even believe that one. Oh my God, what a fantastic story. Ed and I go to an Oakland Raiders game at the Los Angeles Coliseum. Oh my God. This guy, yeah, it's a fun story. You guys are going to dig that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm really excited.
That's probably
I'll even
about.
give you a hint.
That's a teaser.
That's a what?
Teaser.
Good teaser.
Exactly. And I'll give you a little hint. Lennon gave you a hint, right? The walrus was Paul. Well, I'll give you a hint with the title, Girls with Balls. So,
Uh-oh.
yeah.
Rob's ordering that book right now.
Yeah, I'm right on. Lickety split. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's what you think it is, but if you think about it, when you read it, I think you'll get it. Yeah, it's a great story, and yeah, I really tried to, man, I tried to dredge up every memory I had of him, good and bad. And, I laid it all out there. And I honestly think one of the reasons that Omnibus, the publisher I referenced at the top of this, passed was that the book, and I don't know exactly how many words. I know how many words it was in Word. It was like 258,000 words, which is about twice the length of the typical music bios you see. And so it's going to be somewhere between 400 and 500 pages. And that's a thick book. We're talking like,
beautiful.
one of the thick books. So there's going to be a lot of stuff to read, and I honestly, I didn't want to leave anything out. And so I just kept writing. I kept writing, not thinking to edit myself. And
That's so cool.
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. So
I love it.
Well, Steve,
it's all there on the page, guys.
Well, we're definitely excited to see the book, and we can't wait. Not only for the stories, but just to have another piece of a collection to our repertoire of magazines and guitars and CDs and just little gadgets that we kind of hold on to as the Van Halen fan. The interesting thing, we kind of talked about this a few shows ago that we had done, because we all kind of have our own channels too. Johnny's got one of the biggest ones, because he's been doing it for so long. When Edward passed back in October of 20, it's interesting as a Van Halen fan, you kind of say to yourself, wow, now what? What's going to happen now? But what's really interesting is, as a Van Halen fan, with the passing of the King, everything carries on, and in some senses it's more amplified, because now there's so much stuff out on the internet. There's so many books coming out. There's so many people building guitars. There's so many stuff coming out on YouTube, like
videos.
Solos and live videos, right? Like from shows, because now it's almost like this flood of Van Halen stuff coming out, which is really in the mourning of losing a guitar hero, just a hero that we grew up with, that had such an instrumental part of all of our lives. On the positive side of that, being a Van Halen fan has done nothing other than just become even more fun. So, and I think it's going to continue, because there's so much stuff. Now, I'm not talking about the vaults at 5150, with all the unreleased music and stuff, that hopefully one day Wolfgang will get to, 10, 15 years down the road, whatever. But the live footage and the pictures and the Sloz books and the books that you just wrote, all that stuff, that's just, people are like, hey, now's a good time to put this out. So I guess what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is, being a Van Halen fan is doing nothing other than becoming more exciting, because there's so much cool stuff coming out. So it's just like, as Ed used to say, fasten your seatbelt, because there's just more stuff coming,
Yeah, absolutely. Following on that thread, Rob, for just a second. All the other Van Halen books came out post Edward's passing.
Right.
And that's fine. It's totally legitimate. I just wanted to put on record that like I told you guys before, I began the book August 24th of 2020, which is a month and a week or whatever before Ed's passing. If I had, honestly, if Ed had passed before I started the book, I honestly don't know what I would have done. Would that have been a trigger to go, oh my God, now I really have to write the book? Or, oh my God, I can't write the book. I don't want to write the book. So I don't know. And I'm not trying to be maudlin about it, but I just wanted to put that out there.
But Steve, the other thing too that you mentioned earlier in the show is that you had plans with Eddie to do a biography, and you already kind of had this thing in place and in movement back, in the late 80s. So, don't be hard on yourself. I think you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. You know, and it's funny because it was really difficult for me to kind of get into the book, as I told you guys about, and I write about this. Again, it's, you know, you're reading a book about a book that you don't have, and, you know, one of those things. When I started this book, I thought it was going to be what that book should have been. But then I realized that there were two different animals entirely. You know, Edward was gone. So all those interviews that I wanted to do with him, you know, obviously were never going to happen. I didn't have those. You know, basically the original book, I saw basically as pretty much, even though I'd been doing interviews with a lot of other people, I really saw it maybe as almost just sort of, you know, as a narrative from Edward. You know, the question, you know, that I would have asked him, and then his response, so almost just like, you know, Edward speaking. But then I thought, no, I've done all these other interviews, so I would have used those as connecting tissue. You know, if Edward's talking about, you know, his early bands, if I'd interviewed guys from his early bands, you know, I would have inserted those interviews, and then I would have added my sort of, you know, overview as sort of a connecting tissue. And you know, when I saw this book, I thought, well, I have all these other interviews, but then I thought, no, the book is really about Edward, and you know, it's about me and our friendship. And kind of once I understood that, I was able to really kind of jump into the book and realize that these were two entirely different books. So yeah. Which isn't to say, I mean, again, all these other interviews I have, I mean, there's some amazing interviews that I did, you know, and they exist, you know, on tape. So I don't know, maybe those see the light of day somewhere.
Well, I'm glad you've touched on that, because you just kind of reminded me of a question that I personally forgot to ask. We have the amazing interviews that you did with Ed, you know, 77, 78, 79, 80, 86. Are there more that you're planning to release down the road, like, and maybe the OU 812 tour, like 88, or maybe the 90s balance tour, or sometime like in between? And you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to say no. We're just asking.
Yeah,
so.
no. Those are that's I can understand that coming from that viewpoint. Yeah, there are some interviews from those periods. Yeah, there's probably 3 or 4, and I actually covered those in the book.
Nice.
I'd even, and this could be way premature, but I've been thinking about maybe some kind of an enhanced audiobook. So awesome. Built around Tone Chaser, but now when Ed is talking about, when Ed's playing the riffs and this and that, you're going to hear that stuff. And when Ed's talking about, you know, 1984, you're going to hear I mean, I thought that would be pretty amazing. You know, I mean, I've seen the responses to the audio that I've gotten, and it's just been amazing. And I realized, you know, it's important to people, and
right.
And I can feel that important. I can feel how important that is to people, and that resonates with me. So that's something I've been toying with. You know, let me get the book in my hand and you know, get that out to everybody. Sure. But that's something I've been thinking about, because I am sitting on. I don't know. I mean, you know, all told, I mean, there's probably 50 hours of interviews I have.
Wow.
You know, a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of it I touch on in the book, or I've edited it down, you know, a little bit. There's a couple of them, and this makes me cringe, you know, where the batteries in my fucking cassette player were going dead, and it's like I can't make out what's on the tape. Oh God.
That's funny.
I was such an
Have you-
idiot, man.
The 80s, the
So,
70s and 80s, man. I'll tell you, the batteries die in the cassette player, and you're like, it's
oh
crazy.
my
That's
God.
awesome.
or chewed up tapes. Steve, have you had any problems with maintaining those tapes and making sure that they're not disintegrating?
You know, man. I mean, I know those stories, and I know about the life existence of a tape, and I know that's whatever that is, chrome oxide wears off. But man, I keep these tapes in these. You've seen these binders, and they have like the little plastic things. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 holds it like 16.
Yep.
And it closes up in a classic book. And I've kept them in there, man. And except for tapes where my batteries were dead, or the piece of shit cassette player I used was so loud, and Ed comments on tape. I'm like, hitting something. Hey man, is your cassette player dying? Because the capstan is going, and that's being picked up by the microphone. That's going on the tape and obliterating Ed's responses. And it's like, just shoot me now. Other than those remarkably stupid things, no man, all those tapes, none of them got like hung up, and none of them, seem to be have degraded audio wise. I mean, look, man, I was using literally a $5 cassette player and a $2 microphone. I mean, I was a moron. I mean, and then I finally got like a Sony Pro Walkman, and that was great once I got that. But I still use cheap cassettes, so don't even ask. I'm just grateful that I had this stuff and I was able to hear them well enough to write something. But in answer to your question, no, the stuff remains pretty intact. I've also dumped all the interviews to all the cassettes to CDs, and all the CDs to 2 hard drives. So
Cool.
I've got it there.
Nice.
Yeah. So thankfully I was, forward thinking enough to do that, yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah. It was is that dying? And it's like, oh my God, it's like you say that, it's like, it's so embarrassing. And, he's sitting over at my place, and I'm, trying to be professional around, but at least, together. And he goes,
Yeah,
is it, your cassette dying? And I think one time I responded, and I says, no, the cassette's fine. I'm dying, but the cassette's okay.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Cool. Well, Steve,
Funny
as we
stuff.
wrap up,
Yeah, man,
anything else you
Yeah.
anything else you want to talk about?
Just that I want to say thank you guys again, honestly, for being so great. Johnny, you have been a champion for a very long time, and that means so much to me. I can't impress upon you guys how much that means, and all the people here in the chat room and the people buying the book. And look, I'm going beyond the financial thing, because no one's going to get rich off the book. It means as much to me. And if I could give the book away for free, I'd do it. But it means as much to me that, people want to read the book. And I did everything I possibly could to write this fantastic, wonderful, and honest and transparent book, for me, for Edward, and for all you guys. And, that's what I tried to do. So yeah, now we all just have to wait, and you'll get the books in your hands, and you guys all read it. And, I hope you guys love it. I hope you love reading it as much as I really, really did love writing it. So, yeah.
Steve, we just want to say too that thanks to people like yourself that took the time back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s to do all this legwork and to do these interviews and to indulge yourselves into the lives of these, these artists. Thanks to all the hard work that you did way back in those days, 30, 40 years ago, whatever it is, we're able to sit back now and enjoy this. And in our busy days that we all have our own lives and we work our jobs and we, have our families and our friends and relationships, whatever, our passions that we have, the guitar stuff, and, obviously everybody in the chat is a big Van Halen fan. Thanks to people like yourself, we're able to relive and remember, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and, where we were when we first heard Fair Warning, or where we were when we first heard Balance, or, and, and reading your interviews and listening to the audio clips that you put out on YouTube and everything. It's because of that, the spirit of Ed stays alive. So, thank you so much for taking the time to put this book out. Thank you for, allowing us to be part of what you lived with this legend. And the only thing I would ask you is please continue to, when you have time, and you're toying with the ideas of putting this stuff out, what you find fit to release, we're just going to suck it up and enjoy every second of it. And it doesn't go unappreciated. It doesn't. We really appreciate what you've done, and thank you so much. And please continue to do what you do, because we all appreciate it as fans.
Thank you very much, Rob. Thank you to all you guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Steve, I just want to say thanks for, putting all this precious information on a book. I know there was probably just as many hours of personal time with Eddie that you had in conjunction with what you had as far as interview goes. I know you guys were friends. A lot of people don't realize that, when Ed passed, you actually lost a friend. And, thank you for stepping forward and doing this. And I hope you're doing okay. And I know it's hard losing someone close like that. And, we're thinking about you, and we're all on your side.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I don't even know what to say. I mean, I'm really touched. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Yes.
Thanks,
hey,
guys.
I just realized there's 100 people watching this. So can we give you a few questions real quick from the chat?
Oh yeah, man, absolutely.
There's people in the chat here.
I thought we were on a time thing. Yeah, man, go ahead.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Will there be an audio book? Jason McNamara is asking.
We just touched on that. My first thought was a straight up audiobook. And typically an audiobook is basically a book that you've read and now someone's reading that text. Typically you find some, a famous guy. So that was my first thought. And I thought, I suppose if I could get, I don't know, some amazing guy with an amazing voice to read it, does that become of interest?
Johnny Beane.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly.
I'll have to learn how to read, and then I'll do it.
Funny, and then I thought, because again, I saw the response to those YouTube videos, and honestly, I was really reluctant to put those up. For a very long time, I was very protective and defensive, and honestly, nobody ever heard any of my interviews. I played some stuff for my brother. If a friend was over, I'd play him hey man, I hear the part of the Jimmy Page interview. And of course, I'd play him a little bit. But beyond that, I didn't really do much. I did license some of that audio. I take that back. I licensed some of that stuff, but I always felt like this is mine. This belongs to me, and I don't want anybody else to see it or hear it. This is mine. Go get your own. But then I realized that's ridiculous. I don't live in a vacuum, and I don't write in a vacuum. And the reason you write stories is so people can read them. And I thought maybe people would want to hear the interviews, because sometimes I hear them, I go, yeah, I think that's cool. But then I hear a question or the tone of my voice, and I go, oh my God, it's like it makes me cringe. But people coming from a different way. I mean, the context of it is totally different. So again, I see what the response was from people. So once Tone Chaser is out there and people have it and the response is what I hope it will be, then I'm really, really been thinking about, yeah, man, I think an enhanced version and Tone Chaser would sort of be the script for it.
Right.
And, just inserting bits of Ed. I mean, I've got some stuff, man, and I write about in the book, and I'm tripping over my own tongue because I don't want to give it away, where Ed, and I'll give you this little bit. Ed had come over to the house, and I'm working with my buddy, working on some of my songs. I've been a songwriter, and he comes over and he starts to play over one of my songs. We're not jamming on a riff that we had, and I did that with him. This is one of my songs that's on a little 4-track. My buddy Ron is playing keyboards. He's also a bass player. And Ed comes over and he's playing, but it's not recorded onto the 4-track, but I have my cassette going and he's playing like parts while the song is going. He's never heard the song. You cannot even believe what he's playing. I mean, so it's just moments like that. I think people would hear that, and it's only like 30 or 40 seconds.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's mind-blowing. You asked me before about when did I think Ed was amazing, and was it from hearing him play, Van Halen songs? Yes, but it was hearing him play the Purple songs. Well, hearing him play on my song, because I know what it is. Right. And I know the solos that I've butchered, and I'm no way trying to compare myself to Ed, but I know what those changes are and, what a guitar player play. And he comes in and he plays this solo and then he's hearing like these rhythm parts. He just nailed the essence of the song in like 5 minutes, things that I couldn't have thought of in 100 years. And it was so pure Van Halen. And so now you can not only hear him playing, but it's like you can watch him going, oh, so he's thinking like that. And that's how he comes up with that counter rhythm. And oh my God, it's just mind blowing. And to try to describe that, which I've tried to do in the book in words, listening to a tape that happened 40 years ago is really difficult. And I think I've done a good job. But honestly, if you were reading that text and you heard this, you'd go, oh my God, that's what it is. Listen to this, so yes. So I'm really starting to really seriously consider
True audio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, man.
Amazing. Lindy Lynch is asking, will there be autographed copies of the book?
Well, I'll autograph anybody's book for another $10. I'm kidding. It's
Kurt's paying for it.
$20.
Kurt's paying.
Exactly. What I was going to do, I mean, people have written in and they've asked for autographs. And of course, I will autograph those books. What I was going to do, just as a matter of course, was autograph everybody's book. The people who specifically asked for an autograph, of course, I would personalize. But then I thought maybe somebody they don't want an autograph. Maybe they like a pristine book. And hey, I get that, So, yeah, but yes, I'll autograph anybody's book and I'll write anything in there you'd like me to.
I'd certainly love you to autograph mine. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Did you put that in your note, Rob? Did you mention that? I'm
will.
not a brain reader, pal. Jesus.
I will.
Come on.
I will.
All right.
It's like whenever Kurt comes to visit, I always want him to give me a kiss on the neck before he leaves.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
No, come on.
So,
don't act like you don't know. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about.
I have
Cobra
no
Kai
idea what you're
says,
talking
when can
about.
Mr. Rosen come back? Maybe we should have you back when the book comes out.
Yeah,
And we
I
can
would
plug
love
it
that.
again.
Yes.
Actually, I'd like to come back.
Yes, absolutely.
Give after the book has come out and people have read it. or they've at least read some of it. So now we can, you know, and I'm really putting myself on the line there, and hoping they're going to love it. But yeah, that would be fantastic.
I think everyone's going to love the book, Steve, and I think everyone's going to get another vision of your time with Ed. I mean, we have the audio, YouTube interviews that you did, and those are just phenomenal. You can't listen to them enough. But we're so looking forward to what you have in that book, because we know there's so many little gems that are going to be just, part of that. So so excited.
Absolutely. And it's honestly, it's those little things you guys picked up on them. You picked up on, can I take the knob off? But it's little things that he would have said in the context of something else, that would just reveal to me so much about who this guy was. And, so I'll take that and I'll explode that idea or that thought. And there's a way that I do it in the book that I think is kind of, interesting and kind of, intriguing. And so it's a lot of the little moments. I mean, there's some big moments, but it's those little, idiosyncrasies. He'll say something, or the way he said something, or even his tone of voice, which, obviously you can't hear it in text. You can certainly hear in those interviews, but, I'll sort of, dismantle the, how he was talking and his tone of voice and that, it's cool. I mean,
Sharon says it best.
I just actually,
Sharon says it best. Buy the fucking book, she says.
I actually just went through and did about, I don't know, I probably edited the book. I know I've done it 4 times. I think today was maybe the 5th time. And it's little things. It's a comma here or there. It's it's really minute things. It's not so much adding stuff, but as I'm going through it, I mean, I'm really trying to look at it as a reader, and as I'm just going through editing it. And so I've read that book, I don't know how many times now, 10 times. And
wow.
I rarely say this about my own stuff. I said I'd like the 85 interview. But I mean, I think it's really good. I mean, I think the writing is really good, and I think I've captured him, and, I really think it'll touch people and resonate with them. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, hey, Steve, one more question.
Yep.
Holly Lewis is asking, do you know who named Eruption? The song? Do you know who actually physically or named that?
That's a good question. I doubt if it was Ed, because he never came up with song titles. I do not know. That's a good question. I mean, did Ed name it? I mean, he could have. I mean, I never talked to him about it. I don't think so. It doesn't sound like an Ed name. I mean, maybe it was his brother. Alex used to come up with those kinds of things. And I'll give you one other little hint. Cathedral. There's a little bit in the book about Cathedral as a song title, which I think fans will kind of dig. So it's a fun story.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
As far as just real quick on the
Nice.
eruption thing, I know, and I don't know for sure, but definitely looking forward to the cathedral part. That's going to be cool to read. But
Yeah.
on the eruption thing, I know Ed always said that he was just messing around playing eruption, and Ted came in and was like, "Oh, what's that?" And Ed was like, "Oh, this is this little ditty I do in my solo," and it's like, let's track it. So almost wondering if that was maybe something Ted came up with. What do you think?
It's quite possible. I was thinking Ted or Alex or Don Landry.
Yeah. Yep.
But I really seriously doubt that Ed came up with it.
Right.
Dave wouldn't have been there necessarily, so he probably wouldn't have said anything. And there's another little bit about Dave talking to Ed about his solos. I mean, you won't even believe this. It's amazing stuff. But yeah, no, it could have certainly been Ted. And there's a lot of discussion about Ted in the book as well.
Nice.
Cool.
Awesome.
We can't
Awesome.
Some cool stuff.
Yes. Well, Steve, thank you so much, man. This has been amazing. And when the book comes out, you can come back. And
Yeah. That'd be great.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you again, man. Thank
Thank you, guys. Again, thanks to everybody out there and everybody who's, supporting the book. And, I know you guys love him as much as I do. And hopefully this is, corny word, my homage to him. maybe a little dumb, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's just something that I wanted to write and I thought I had to write. And so it gets out there and it'll be in the hands of the readers, and you'll let me know what you think.
Great. Totally
Awesome.
excited. Totally excited.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Cool. So you guys got everything you need?
Yes.
Not even close, Steve. Not even close. There's a million things we'd love to ask, but we're not.
You can take a break.
Yeah. We'll come back and pick that next time. But thank you so much. You really, really just.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Well, we'll see you. We'll see you after the book comes out. All right.
Awesome.
Okay.
100%.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Take care.
All right.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Steve. Awesome.
That was
Awesome.
awesome. It's
Right on.
there's so many things that we would love to ask Steve, and there's you try to tread on being respectful, and you try to tread on what he can remember and what he's allowed to talk about, what he's not. And it's just like mind blowing, because there's just so much information that guy has. And it's just when you listen to the interviews that are on audio, and I think it was Mike Neese, I said in the chat, I noticed a little while ago, he said, every time I listen to one of those, you pick up something else, you hear something else. And it's
Something
so
new.
true. It's amazing. I mean, listening to a Van Halen song. I mean, Kurt, when you and me and Jimmy Carr were driving to EVH Con, we were listening to the all the Van Halen tracks without the audio, without the vocals, which I love. It's just great. And you can hear so many little guitar pieces that you can't hear when Dave or Sammy or Gary is yapping over it, and it's just cool to hear what Edward was thinking and what he was coming up with. And it's amazing.
It's the heartbeat of the music.
Yeah. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Johnny, we can't wait to interview him again after the book comes out,
It'll be great.
Yeah.
And there'll be a lot more too.
Sure.
Because I just realized I have two other shows where he can come back, other platforms. So not just here. We can actually do other stuff elsewhere.
Yeah.
So that'll be awesome.
Cool.
Thank you so much, everybody,
He
for
was
watching.
very open.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's awesome. I've been a huge fan of Steve Rosen,
Steve's awesome.
dude, since when I first got that
Since the
first
hair.
guitar player. What?
Since that hair he had.
Yeah.
The haircut. The afro.
Thank you, channel members. Thank you guys for all your support. And if this is your first time here, I probably should have said this 2.5 hours ago. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like Van Halen, this is the place you want to be. I mean, this is the place. This is exclusively Van Halen, the weekly EVH show, Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. And it's also a podcast, so you guys can actually listen to this as a podcast as well. All right. Don't hang up, you guys.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody. See you guys tomorrow night. It's Friday night.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.